Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Prof. Nanden and friends. Thank you for the time that has given to me for presenting four articles that belong to the topic number 7. The topic is perspectives of diverse stakeholders on educational language policy and planning. This topic is taken from Global Perspectives on Language Education Policies, a research volume by Routledge Publisher. The first article that I would like to explain in this opportunity, it's the title. It's Policy and Practicality in Timorese Higher Education: Lesson from Lectures in Development-Related Discipline by Trent Newman. In this study, Newman had an empirical study of the policy impacting East Timorese tertiary educators of the students' academic and professional communication skills. Tertiary in this case means that university level student. The data had been conducted from interviews, focus group discussion with lecturers from petroleum studies, agriculture, tourism, and community development studies. The study was related to the issues of language mixing, TETM, the national lingua franca. It's spelled TETM in English, Indonesian, Portuguese, and English in Timor-Leste that lecturers had in their work. The study also is in line with how higher education lecturers in Timor-Leste conceptualize the academic and professional communication skills needed by their plurilingual students. For 3 months visit, Newman in Timor-Leste in 2015, Newman conducted from group discussion with lecturers from 3 institutions: public university, private technical institute, and private agriculture institute. In this forum group discussion, the participants were asked to share the impression of the communication challenges faced by their students in multilingual study and work context particular to their discipline area. It focused on concrete examples and interactive stories with students close to interviewees' real-life world. So in this interview, participants were asked about their individual experience of teaching in their field and across multiple languages to describe their teaching methods and communication strategies in more detail, and their hopes and expectations of plurilingual graduates in their industries regarding the future development of Timor-Leste. Based on the interviews taken, the lecturers tend to view students' ability to understand their teaching and reproduce that understanding in terms of language deficiencies. Deficiencies here are perceived in students' prior development of technical and discipline-specific lexicon in any language, and in terms of perceived deficiencies in TETM itself as a language. For the institutional arrangement, all tertiary students must take at least 2 semesters each of Portuguese, TETM, and English in the first year. Also, students in petroleum and tourism faculties at technical university also take additional English for specific purpose classes, English for specific purposes classes. And the failure of the first year language program, it tends to focus almost exclusively on vocabulary, spelling, grammar, and orthography, beside their communication skill. So we have the study implication that policy and future research must consider that university graduates have to learn communication skills needed to be job ready. Not only studying about grammars and others, but the important thing is they have to be skillful in their communication related to their job. That is the first article. I'm going to explain the next one. The title is The Absence of Language-Focused Teacher Education Policy in United States, K-12 Context, Insight from Language Socialization Research in a 9th grade physics classroom by Sarah Braden and Marianne Christensen. So based on the United States Census Bureau in 2011, English learners, or ELS, in the United States have lower standardized test scores and lower high school graduation rates than their native English-speaking peers, stated by Goldenberg in 2004. As the demographic in the United States changed to include more individuals from language minority backgrounds in the workforce, it has become imperative to ensure equitably access to STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics career, stated by Redding in 2021. So in the United States, there are no national policy regarding the educations of science, technology, engineering, and math teachers. Individual states create teacher licensure requirements and have their process for developing content standards and administering standardized tests. So the context from this research, the research was taken a small district public school in the Western United States with grade 6 until 12 and had a science-focused curriculum. The teacher himself has 10 years of teaching experience and bachelor's and master's degree in physics education, state licensure in physics, and ESL endorsement. He also won numerous awards for physics teaching. And the data from this research show that language socialization plays a role in how high school students develop identities as science students and how they affiliate with the disciplines. So STEM teachers must be aware of the importance of disciplinary language and language socialization in their classroom. Science content standards that focus teachers' attention on science practices and science content knowledge should also include science language. So the making policy changes will encourage teachers to develop an awareness of the role that language plays in constructing science knowledge and influencing student science-related identities. So the policy should have changed because this awareness of the role that language plays in constructing the science knowledge, and of course it influenced student science-related identities. So that's for the second article. I'd like to explain for the third one. The title is Bilingualism for All. Bilingualism for All, Interrogating Language and Equity in Dual Language Immersion in Wisconsin by Laura Hammond. So in recent decades, bilingual education has gained renewed popularity in the United States in dual language programs. This study presented a case study of a dual language immersion, DLI, school in Wisconsin. The research was explored local policy and ideological discourses around bilingualism that shape program design and implementation. The study also considered the role of teachers, board members, administrators, and community activists to implement the first dual language program. The research question that relate to this study, there are two research questions. Uh, the first one is, what are the local ideologies and policies around bilingualism? And the second one is, how did they shape the design and implementation of a DLI program in a mid-sized city in Wisconsin? The research method used in this study, it has used an ecological approach to language planning and policy by Risento and Hamburger in 1996 to explore how a local DLI program is embedded in discourse, ideologies, and policies around language at multiple interrelated levels. The researcher collected the data by reviewing state and district level policies about bilingual education in the community, then examining relevant newspaper articles from 2015 related to the existence of the DLI program. Last, interviewing the administrators, teachers, board members, and consultants about their involvement and perceptions of dual language immersion. State and district policies and local media underwent content analysis to identify, organize, and index word clustered around bilingualism conceptual idea. Interview data were transcribed and analyzed from a critical discourse analytic perspective. And then there are three orientations to language planning that this study has produced. The first one is language as problem. The second one, language as a right, and the third one, language as a resource. This orientation based on Ruiz in 1984. All these approaches shape bilingual education in Wisconsin broadly, and the district's DLI program in particular. The first orientation is bilingualism as a problem. So the framing of bilingualism as a problem is salient in chapter 115, subchapter 7 of Wisconsin statutes. Sorry if I mistake. The policy that addresses state alignment with federal guidelines on educating English learners. Subchapter 7 does not recognize bilingualism and biculturalism as a set and of themselves, and establish monolingual English acquisition as its principal objectives. So these federal guidelines only recognize as English acquisition as its principal objective. So it doesn't recognize about the bilingualism and biculturalism. Yeah. Okay, and then the second orientation from this study is bilingualism as a resource. In contrast to the state positions, there are local medias frame bilingualism as a resource with tangible economic benefit. Wisconsin Public Radio described the DLI program as a new way to teach a foreign language. So local newspapers cite the program's potential for building a world-class school system that prepares students to engage in the 21st century economy. So it has contradiction with the first orientation, bilingualism as a problem. The public media got some resource from this bilingualism phenomenon in Wisconsin. And for the third orientation, it is called bilingualism as a right, a social justice approach. It has a perspective from the parents and the right to bilingualism shift power dynamics inside the classroom and out, flipping who is seen as knowledgeable and who can participate. According to the teacher, bilingual education is empowerment, providing non-native students with the chance to see their home language as valuable and fostering intergenerational connection. So the ability and the right to teach bilingually provides the platform for the teacher to integrate language and culture and her life experiences into the curriculum. And then the next is the implication that I can find in this research, the implication for policy, practice, and future research. So this varying position, bilingualism as a problem, bilingualism as a resources, bilingualism as a right, have implication for researchers and policymakers who must integrate the discourses around bilingualism within local communities to critically examine who is prioritized in DLI and find ways to build more equity-focused models. So that's for the third article, and I go to the next slide that's belong to the fourth article from my explanation, and the title is Media Discourses of Language Policy and the New Latino Diaspora in Iowa by Chris Stephens. This research has found that bilingual education is often portrayed unfavorably in media coverage in a 10-year analysis of major national newspapers. McClellan and C. in 1996 found that articles, editorial, and opinion pieces were decidedly against bilingual education, and that more space was devoted to pieces against it than in favor of it. The data were gathered from three primary resources: Iowa state policy documents, newspaper articles, and the transcript of a radio show about the bilingual program in West Liberty. And this study relied on intertextual analysis stated by Peresmith and Tollefson in 2018 to address the research questions. An intertextual analysis is a means of discourse analysis that traces how and where particular texts appear inside of other texts, assuming that all texts have social histories and are influenced by other texts. The findings from this study, it explained about that language portrays an image of dual language programming that extends beyond the classroom and into the community. In the news, bilingual education is associated with community cohesiveness, social success, and the town's revitalization. So in the last of this presentation, all four opinion articles argued for bilingual programs in other parts of the state, using West Liberty's program as an example of effective language educations. And the implication for policy, practice, and future research from this Iowa's article that this study raises implication for future research. Media representation of bilingual education help examine ideologies and discourses employed in a local context. Media language about dual language education in West Liberty diverge and draws from the same discourse of achievement and economic and also social prosperity as the monoglossic official English policy and educational policy. From the articles that I have been explained before, I tried to get the research gap from those articles that hopefully it can be my research in the future. That, as we know, in Indonesia has successfully implemented language policy by choosing Malay language as its national language, which enables to unite ethnics from a variety of vernacular background. However, Indonesia is not considered successful enough in preserving indigenous language and promoting English as a crucial international language, stated by Rahmi in 2016, especially in education, so that Indonesians can compete globally together with other nations. For example, English subject cannot be found anymore now as subject for elementary school students in curriculum 2013, while it was one of the subjects stated in previous curriculum known as KTSP. So the policymaker in Indonesia need to reformulate the language policy in curriculum issues. I think that's enough for my explanation. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Prof. Menden, for the time. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.